Earl Bradley was a pediatrician that worked in Northeast Philadelphia in the 80s, as he was successful enough to open up his own practice. But his career choice wasn't because of a genuine desire to help. It was to gain access to victims for his pedophilic urges. In the mid-90s, he was accused twice of sexual misconduct towards his young patients, so he abruptly closed his practice and moved to Lewes, Delaware. He worked at Beebe Medical Center, where more allegations continued to mount. He then opened up another private practice, Baybees Pediatrics, in Milford, where he masqueraded as a friendly member of the community. But behind this mask, he continued to torment and abuse young children, with his youngest victim being just 3 months old. Despite numerous reports against him, Earl remained free. In 2009, 15 years after the first complaint, he was finally apprehended after yet another incident of him touching a young girl inappropriately. When police raided his practice, they found 13 hours of videotapes displaying sadistic crimes that led many to believe that he was the worst child predator in American history. But how did he escape justice for so long? Welcome to history's biggest villains. So I just wanted to warn you guys that I will be describing some pretty graphic instances of child sexual abuse in this video. So if that is something that is distressful for you, you can always click off the video. Your mental health is more important than the view on this video. Just wanted to forewarn you before we start, but thank you. Earl Bradley was born on May 10th, 1953 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Not much is known about his childhood, but a disturbing fact about his family was that when his father died in 1965, there were images of child pornography found in the home. Earl's uncle, David Bradley, was convicted on several counts of indecent exposure. He was accused of exposing himself to 3 young girls, even asking another girl, who was 4, to perform oral sex on him. However, he never served a day in prison. Earl buried his head into his books, graduating from the Temple University School of Medicine in 1983, then completing his residency in pediatrics at Thomas Jefferson University Hospital in 1986. He eventually opened up his own practice at Academy and Red Lions Road in Morrell Park, but the adults there found his obsession with children's toys rather strange. An unidentified mother of a former patient of his said, "I got a little freaked out because of all the children's stuff around." Earl was the pediatrician on call the night her son was born, and despite her initial apprehension, she ended up staying with him, taking her infant son to see him about 6 times. On one occasion, Earl tried to take the little boy into a private room, telling his mother that he wanted to take a picture of him. He said he wanted to add it to the collection of his other patients, but the mother insisted on coming along, likely preventing Earl from doing what he really wanted to do. According to Pennsylvania state records, Earl was sued in 1991. The lawsuit was successful, but the reason behind the suit was never determined. In 1994, he was accused of sexual misconduct by the mother of a patient, but no charges were filed. A year later, he was accused again, but the hospital couldn't verify the claim and the case was dismissed. Like someone who's completely innocent, Earl abruptly closed his office on Academy Road, packed up his family, and relocated to Lewes, Delaware in 1995. He didn't even notify his patients of this, as one woman said, "I had an appointment, and when I called to see what time it was, nobody answered the phone. So I took a guess. I took my son up, and the office was closed." After he moved to Delaware, he took a job at Beebe Medical Center. Not too long after this, one of the nurses complained that he was overly affectionate with children. He would also insert unnecessary catheters in his victims, but these complaints were dismissed by the hospital. It was later discovered that the pen light he used to perform vaginal exams had a secret camera that was recording the entire procedure. After his 2009 arrest, a police investigation determined that his first reported incident in Delaware took place in 1999, as a 7-year-old girl was scheduled for a physical. With the mother present, Bradley pulled the child's pants down and stuck his finger in her with no gloves on. The child screamed and her mother jumped up immediately and questioned him. She later said that this never happened with any other pediatrician before or since. In 2003, another 7-year-old girl was taken in for a physical, where Bradley examined the girl's private area. Her grandmother was present, but turned her back until the child began to get out of control, after which she told him to stop. He then picked up the child and carried her around during the examination, which also made the grandmother uncomfortable. A third child, a 5-year-old girl, complained to her mother in April 2004, saying that she didn't want to see Bradley anymore because he gave her too many kisses. Growing tired of prying eyes, Earl decided to open his own practice in Milford, Delaware around March. This place was called Baybees Pediatrics, and the offices were decorated with child-themed attractions and carnival rides, even a miniature Ferris wheel and a merry-go-round. He also had several Volkswagen Beetles that he painted black and yellow to represent bumblebees. But as you would expect, the abuse didn't stop. Another child, who was 3, complained in March of 2005 that Earl kissed her on the tongue after taking her into a separate room. More complaints of long and unnecessary vaginal exams, followed by reports that Bradley was recording kids playing in a park, still went nowhere. After yet another complaint of him touching a child, Milford police conducted a criminal investigation against him in 2005. The police interviewed 5 witnesses who could paint a picture of how Earl ran his office. According to the first witness, who was a pediatrician that worked with Bradley, they both shared 3 patients. They all had similar stories of Bradley conducting long vaginal exams on young girls. He also said that he referred to Bradley as a pedophile when talking to colleagues. The second witness, also a pediatrician who worked with Bradley, said that he was a different character who didn't have a lot of friends. The witness said he frequently visited eBay and liked to take digital pictures of his patients. He also said that multiple patients were transferred to him because of complaints about female exams, taking children away from their parents for minutes at a time, and forcing children to get undressed when they didn't want to. He also said that Bradley installed several surveillance cameras in various locations around his offices, as these cameras could be accessed from his home computer. Witness 3 said Bradley wasn't very interactive with parents, but he hadn't witnessed any inappropriate behavior, even as he watched Bradley hold and kiss children on the cheek. What the entire fuck, bro? Witness 4 was a nurse who worked for Bradley. She said she resigned because she was tired of him wasting money on children's toys instead of items for the office. She also said Bradley didn't communicate well with parents, but believed him to be caring and genuine with the children. She said that Bradley had planned for his Lewes office to have a children's theater and for his Milford office to have an ice cream shop. The 5th witness was a former office manager who worked with Bradley for 3 years. She was fired after she confronted him about personal problems and financial issues within the business. She said he would take samples of medication out of the office for his own use, claiming he was bipolar. These medications included Zoloft, Paxil, and Zetera. She also told police that he physically and emotionally abused his one son, but showed a lot of affection towards his daughters. As office manager, she received several complaints from parents about improper touching by Bradley. She said she filed a letter with the Delaware Medical Society detailing her concerns, but an investigation was never conducted. Even with all these statements, the Milford police concluded that there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute, so Bradley wasn't charged. As the mid-2000s carried on, this monster continued his sick streak under all the notice of the community. In September 2008, a 12-year-old girl was taken to see Bradley after complaining of a sore throat and pink eye. The child's throat culture and temperature were never taken, her urine sample wasn't tested, and a nurse wasn't present. However, the child was given a vaginal exam. The child's mother was present and trusted Bradley, but said later that she felt sick to her stomach when she left. On the way home, the child said she felt dirty about what happened. In an interview with the Child's Advocacy Center of Delaware, she said she felt Bradley touch her in her private area. She said he tried to take her to another room, but her mother insisted on going with him. The mother contacted Bradley the next day, asking why a vaginal exam was needed for a sore throat, but he didn't give her an answer. 3 months later, a 6-year-old girl was brought in for a possible attention deficit disorder. Bradley told the girl's mother that she hadn't had a physical in a while, and he would have to do one to prescribe medication. He then conducted a vaginal exam. The mother, who was present, observed him place a drape on the child's stomach that extended down to the legs. She saw him pull the child's underpants down, as only one of his hands was gloved. She couldn't see what he was doing under the drape. The mother told police she was upset about the exam, but didn't question Bradley. During the visit, he kissed the child several times and told her he missed her. He also asked the child if she wanted to stay the night with him. After they left, the mother informed her child's school nurse of the incident. The nurse contacted the public health service and then the mother, saying that the child's underwear shouldn't have been removed and wondering why Bradley was only wearing one glove. The child described the incident in an interview with the Sussex County Children's Advocacy Center on December 9, 2008. The 7th child mentioned in the future affidavit was an 8-year-old girl who was taken to Bradley for excessive urination. The child was brought into his office on 3 separate occasions, and each time, a vaginal exam was conducted. Even as 3 parents complained of Bradley's lewd behavior, a judge refused to sign the search warrant for his office. Each time, the child was given a cup to bring back a urine sample in 2 weeks. After the 3rd exam, the child's grandfather felt something wasn't right and took the girl to a different pediatrician. At her appointment with the new specialist, the child wasn't asked to take her clothes off. The mother mentioned what her child had been going through at Bradley's office, and the nurse contacted Troop 4's Major Crimes Unit. The 8th child in the affidavit was a 2-year-old girl, and she was the reason for the original charges against Bradley. After her visit on December 7, 2008, the child told her mother that Bradley had touched her in the private area while alone in the toy room. The child's mother was present, but stayed in the waiting room because she trusted Bradley as her child's pediatrician. After returning to the exam room, Bradley and the child left again and returned back to the toy room, which was in the basement of Bradley's office. When they returned, the child had candy. After the girl told her mother what happened, she told the child's father, who said she complained of similar behavior on a previous visit on October 28th. The Delaware State Police were contacted, and based on the girl's testimony, Bradley was finally arrested on December 16, 2009. He was charged with 9 counts, including 4th-degree rape and exploitation of a child. Soon after, police raided his offices, and they found videotapes that Bradley had made of his numerous sexual assaults. These were over 13 hours of videos dating all the way back to 1998. These recordings show him abusing more than 80 victims, with most being toddlers. State Police Detective Scott Garland explained that some videos show Bradley with his hands wrapped around the heads of young children, violently forcing them to perform oral sex on him. When he was finished, he would pick them up by the head and throw them several feet onto a couch. Children in diapers were heard screaming as they tried to escape him. Some of these victims even fell unconscious as Bradley was seen giving mouth-to-mouth CPR and chest rubs to revive them. When Bradley officially surrendered to police on December 18th, his bail was set at $2.9 million. Prison officials placed him on suicide watch, while his attorney complained that the prison officials deprived him of his prescription glasses. How mean of them! In February 2010, a grand jury for the Delaware Superior Court indicted him on 471 charges. 103 victims, only one being male, were identified in the indictment, as their ages went as high as 13 years old and as low as 3 months. Apparently, Bradley was also licensed to practice pediatrics in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Florida, so his total number of victims will probably never be known. On February 19, 2010, the Delaware Board of Medical Practice suspended Bradley's license permanently, 3 months after he was initially arrested. A little late, don't you think? After his assets were frozen, then-Governor Jack Markell was appalled about the failures in the medical, police, and legal communities that allowed Bradley's crimes to continue for more than a decade, so he called for independent review. Attorney General Beau Biden, the son of then-Vice President Joe Biden, announced that he wouldn't seek election to the U.S. Senate seat his father left behind, as he felt that fully prosecuting Bradley was more important. The case was moved from Sussex County to Newcastle County due to the concerns about getting an impartial jury, as most of his victims lived there. After Bradley waived his right to a jury trial, the bench trial was moved back to Sussex County, being presided over by Judge William C. Carpenter. On June 23, 2011, an indictment that originally contained 529 counts was condensed to 24, as Bradley was convicted of 14 counts of rape, 7 counts of assault, and 3 counts of sexual exploitation of a child. After handing out a sentence of 14 life terms plus 165 years, Judge Carpenter said that Bradley betrayed his patient's trust and disgraced the medical profession, and that you will never be in a position to harm a child again. Audaciously, Bradley appealed his conviction to the Delaware Supreme Court, claiming that the original search warrant wasn't specific enough about where the evidence would be located, and that police exceeded the limits of the warrant without probable cause. This appeal was quickly denied. On October 10, 2011, Bradley's office complex was demolished. Then the police confiscated the contents of a storage locker in Rehoboth Beach and destroyed them. Beau Biden bought the rest of the items for $1, ensuring that they would never be used again. Bradley was held at the James T. Vaughn Correctional Center in Newcastle County until 2016. Delaware authorities announced that he would be moved to an out-of-state facility, as it was clear that many of the people affected by his actions either worked in or were incarcerated in Delaware prisons, so Bradley was moved to Connecticut. Once experts looked into his offending, they quickly realized that this is one of the most prolific cases of child sexual abuse in American history in terms of the number of victims. Due to the repeated failures of multiple institutions, a record-setting $123 million class action settlement was established, the largest amount ever for a sexual abuse case involving one perpetrator. After the lawyers received $32 million from that amount, the rest was divided amongst 980 families, as it was determined that Bradley had access to more than 7,000 children during his time as a pediatrician. But even with this financial compensation, the utter scale of these crimes in a state as small as Delaware had an impact that is still felt today. You guys, I really appreciate this. I'm a lot closer to this case than I really want to be, because his office in Milford was literally 20 minutes from where I used to live at when I was growing up. Because I used to live in Sussex County, like around Seaford, Blades area, and I distinctly remember when he was arrested. I remember the footage of him walking to the car. I remember all the rumors. This case really makes me angry. I had always known about this because, like, if you live in Delaware, you know about Earl Bradley. Like, there's no way you don't know about Earl Bradley if you live in Delaware. I had always known what he did, but I never really looked as deep into it as I did just now. It's not even just the fact that this is a sexual predator that's just running rampant, but it's so many institutions that failed that allowed this sexual predator to run rampant. You have 2 accusations of sexual misconduct in Philadelphia, and you just up and leave with no consequences. Beebe Medical Center, you got nurses telling the people that he's being weird with the children. All this weird stuff, like he's got secret cameras and the pen lights. Like, what type of weird stuff is that? And the crazy part, he affected so many children. Almost every family has somebody that went to him as a kid. Almost everyone has somebody that saw him as a kid. It's different because Delaware is such a small state. A lot of people know each other in Delaware. Like, the towns are pretty small. Like, the only big towns really are like Wilmington up Newcastle County. But everything, like, Sussex County is a very small, like, rural county. Like, people from Seaford know people from Laurel. People from Laurel know people from Georgetown. People from Georgetown know people from Bridgeville or from Selbyville or something like that. So it's like, this is a different energy for me with this case. It's just the anger that I feel when I looked at what he did to these kids. It's just the fact that their parents are right there. Sometimes their parents are in the room, and because they just don't have any like knowledge of what he's doing, he can just take advantage of the situation and just should have gave him the needle, to be honest. Like, now people in Connecticut are going to waste money keeping him alive. I think you guys, again, for all the victims of this case, man, I feel for y'all, man. Like, it's just so heartbreaking. Leave a like, hit that subscribe button, turn my post notifications on. Please be safe, stay on the grind. I'm out. Peace.
I never want to see these buildings again, and I don't want anyone who lived through this tragedy, especially the survivors, ever have to see anything that reminds them of what happened on this property. The new property has been incredibly cooperative, and we've been working long and hard to make sure that this is taken down in a process that is reasonable and is in a way that doesn't cause any more pain for the survivors of this tragedy. That's why we're trying to get this done as quickly as we possibly can.
It's been a long time coming. We've been just waiting, and finally the day has come. We've got a nice turnout here, the victims, and people just to see it finally demolished. It's my understanding the plans are today is that by the end of the day the place will be done. They've made arrangements with the landfill to ensure that it would be open until the last pile of rubbish was taken away.
Well, for me, it's a real good moment. I'm glad to see this being torn down because it leaves a bad mark for our community, and I'm glad to see it go. Drive by it every day, and looking over here seeing it is just disgusting to me.
I'm very confident the families are going to be happy and satisfied that they don't have to pass by these structures ever again. What we've been focused on, as I said before, is two things: making sure that Earl Bradley doesn't walk out of prison alive. We accomplished that in late August of this year. And the second is to do everything we possibly can for the families and survivors, and that's what they are of this tragedy. The property owners should be commended. They're going to develop this property, and you know, years from now, people will drive by here and hopefully not have any public reminder of ever what happened took place on these properties. The bottom line is, these buildings need to be removed from the face of the earth. Earl Bradley needs to stay in jail for the rest of his life, and these buildings need to be removed permanently, and that's what we're doing today.